Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Market Down podcast, where tonight we're entering once again the JIMPACT zone. It's your host, James Gisanti, as I cover all things Impact Wrestling. I'll be honest with you guys, I love tonight's episode of Impact. I think this is one of the stronger episodes we've had in a while, and a lot of that had to do with just how much wrestling we had tonight. It was almost from the start of the show to the end of the show. It was nonstop action. I loved what we got. There were some great matchups, some great story development. Can't wait to get into it with you. I've got to cover social media by myself because, again, here at the Market Down podcast, we are professionals and we do it all. But before I get into the major stuff, not the major players, let's start with the opening match of the night, which saw Trey Miguel defending his X Division championship against a man who is, if I'm not mistaken, 45 years his senior, Mike Jackson. I'll be honest with you guys. I've never seen Mike Jackson perform before. I didn't know what to expect. I was certainly intrigued when the match was announced last week, but man, this was a fun little bout. It did wonders for Trey Miguel, the current X Division champion, and his recent dip into the heel pool has been a lot of fun to watch. His new attitude, his new demeanor, the way he carries himself has been quite the transition, and it's been very welcome. Miguel is showing a lot of personality as a heel, and I think he's doing a great job as this cocky mid-card champion. But he was taken to task by Mike Jackson for a good portion of the match. If it wasn't for the fact that Mike went oldest school, which is just such a fun play on the old school move that, you know, you're familiar with Undertaker hitting. It was really cool to see Mike go all around the ring on the ropes, on the top rope, while holding Miguel's hand. But it did cost him, as Trey Miguel was able to counter it, and that led to the 1-2-3, the finish. Trey Miguel still X Division champion. That wasn't it for Trey, though. He was going to get his handy-dandy spray can to spray paint Mike Jackson, just as he's done to past opponents. But instead of finding that spray can, he instead found Crazy Steve. It seems that Trey's interactions with Decay are not quite over, as Crazy Steve followed him back into the ring. And instead of allowing Trey to spray paint Mike Jackson or even to get the upper hand on Crazy Steve himself, Steve spray painted his own body, terrifying Trey Miguel, running out of the ring, going up the ramp to be confronted by Black Taurus. I loved, and I said Taurus, Black Taurus. I loved this interaction. It's great to see the Decay still in the X Division title scene, even though Mike transitioned to Crazy Steve now. Good interaction for Trey Miguel, good interaction for Crazy Steve, and just wow, what a performance by the 73-year-old Mike Jackson. Moving on. We had a backstage segment where Gia Miller was interviewing Josh Alexander, and Josh is talking about the fact that no matter who wins this Golden Six-Shooter main event match to determine the number one contender for his title, they are all former world champions, and none of them are to be taken lightly. Gia and Josh are interrupted by Steve Macklin, who tells Josh, I might not be a former champion, but I've beaten all 6 men in that Golden Shooter match. And sooner or later, now that Scott D'Amore is not there to protect him, he will be coming for Josh Alexander. I cannot wait for the eventual showdown between Steve Macklin and Josh Alexander. Just as Josh was the heir apparent to the World Championship once upon a time, it is now very clear that the next big Impact champion will be Steve Macklin. And it's just, to quote one of the greatest, that is a spoiler. I'm sorry, I'm talking over myself. That's because Paul's the best. I can't replace him. Backstage, we see Chris Sabin preparing for the match for the main event tonight. We also see Rich Swann prepare for the match tonight. I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. They all prepared for the match tonight. We saw it multiple times throughout the night. But what we did get next was a tag team match between Kushida and Kevin Knight from the New Japan LA dojo, taking on the Good Hands, Jason Hotch and John Schuyler. This was a fun little match. I am always excited to see Kushida back in the Impact Zone. Truth be told, I'm just always happy to see Kushida, period. Impact is definitely benefiting from having Kushida on their roster, even on a part-time basis whenever he's around. And no one benefited more than Kevin Knight tonight. A fun tag team between these two. They seem to have a little bit of chemistry. Kevin is obviously a young talent, and you can't benefit more. You can't benefit more than having a tag team partner like Kushida, who did get the win as he locked in the hoverboard lock, getting the tap out victory. Good to see Kushida looking strong. Personally, I would love to see him go for the X Division Championship, but I understand that if he's not going to be around, don't put a belt on a guy who's not going to be around. But man, how great would that be? Transitioning, we go backstage to a segment where Giselle Shaw and Jay Vidal are confronting Santino Marella about who Giselle's tag team partner is going to be tonight as she prepares to take on the Death Dolls for the Knockouts tag team title. Santino opens the door, and Jay Vidal and Giselle seem both very excited and impressed with who her mysterious tag team partner was going to be. Going to another backstage segment, we had Mickie James meet up with Jordynne Grace, who congratulated her on their match at Hard to Kill. Grace, when Mickie talked about why Grace came out to save her last week, Jordynne made it clear she wasn't out to save Mickie, but to save her investment in her rematch for the Impact Knockout Women's Championship. I love the dynamic between these two. Grace talked about the fact that Mickie tapped out in their title match, and if it wasn't for the fact that the ref didn't see it, Jordynne Grace would still be champion, and Mickie James's last rodeo would have ended on a somber note. We will see if Mickie can get past Masha Slamovich at the next pay-per-view, and if she can, Jordynne Grace will be waiting in the wings. We then finally get to the Knockouts, the Impact Knockouts Tag Team Championship match, where the Death Dolls, consisting of Jessica and Taya Valkyrie, defended against Giselle Shaw and her mysterious partner, drum roll please, Tara, who's such a legend in her own right, known to WWE fans as Victoria. We last saw Tara at Hard to Kill as she was very emotional supporting her friend Mickie James in this last title match. And Tara's emotions were still very apparent tonight as she was very happy to be back in the ring after several years for Impact Wrestling. Tara started the match with Taya Valkyrie, who respectfully shook her hand. And after just mere moments, Giselle was disgusted with Tara and tagged herself in. I loved commentary talking about how good Giselle Shaw is, but how terrible she is at tag team matches, because she just ruins every team she's a part of. Either she ruins pre-existing teams, or any team she's about to be a part of and form herself crumbles before they can truly begin. It was a funny back and forth, and I don't think commentary is as good between these two guys, between Matthew Raywald and Tom. Anyway, when they're having a lot of fun. I think I was pulling a Jericho there, guys. I'm sorry. But Giselle did pretty well for herself in what was essentially a handicap match, because she refused to tag Tara back into the match. She took on both Death Dolls by herself, even taunting Tara along the way, hitting a lot of Tara's own moves on the Death Dolls. It was a good showing for Giselle, who turned out to be her own worst enemy, as the numbers game eventually proved too difficult. And even when Jay Vidal tried getting involved, Rosemary stepped in and made sure that it was a fair and clean match. Eventually, Tara had enough confronted Giselle and said, "You need to respect me. I'm your tag team partner." Words of wisdom from the veteran, who unfortunately words fell on deaf ears as Giselle tried to aggressively counter back at Tara, who then hits her finisher on Giselle, allowing the Death Dolls to get the 1, 2, 3 and successfully retain their Impact Knockouts Tag Team Championships. Again, backstage, we have another segment of someone getting ready. This time it's Rhino. And then we had a fun video promo where Taylor Wilde is performing witchcraft and is allowing the magics and the fate and whatever to decide if she is going to continue her feud with Killer Kelly. And once whatever magic, I'm not going to question it, it's scary to me, was decided, it seems that their fate is still intertwined between the two women. So let's see if Taylor Wilde is going to be able to get her win back against Killer Kelly. We did have another backstage segment when Santino Marella, as he's talking with Dave LaGreca of Busted Open. This time, they were confronted by Bully Ray. Bully, I know Bully is a very sensitive subject for a lot of fans because of his spot, but nobody can deny how good Bully has been since he's been back and what he's offered Impact Wrestling. He is a bully, and he is a believable bully. Putting LaGreca against the wall, telling him to shut up and be quiet, that's masterful stuff. It's intimidating, and he does a great job. Bully confronts Marella and questions him on why he's not in the main event for the Golden Six Shooter match. And Santino says, "Well, you just had a title match. You just lost." Bully doesn't care. He tells him that he warns Santino that to remember about what happened to the last guy in charge, which was Scott D'Amore. If you guys don't remember, Bully Ray, they put him through a table. I still miss you, Scott. I miss you so much. But anyway, we have another backstage segment where we see a performer getting ready. This time it is Callahan, not Sami Callihan, just Callahan. That is going to be very tough for me to remember as I'm going over the main event tonight. But he had the design watching him. We then transition to another Gia Miller segment, which, again, Gia Miller, hardest working backstage reporter besides Renee Paquette. Gia was with Tasha Steelz and Savannah Evans. Gia talked about Steelz losing to Mickie James in the match last week, and Tasha makes sure to explain that Mickie will still never be able to beat Tasha one-on-one. But there are problems between the two, between Tasha and Savannah Evans, and what that means for the team. Tasha says that it's just not working anymore. When Gia presses on that, she says all of it's not working, not just the tag team, but all of it. Very interesting to see what happens between these two, as I do think they are a good package together. We then had a excellent tag team match between Bullet Club members Ace Austin and Chris Bay taking on the major players of Brian Myers and Matt Cardona. I've been very open with you guys. I've been very honest. I don't think Cardona is being used to his full potential. I think that I don't know if they're playing a wait and see game with Cardona, if he's going to go back to WWE, if he's going to sign elsewhere, or his availability. But someone as over as Cardona is should be in a higher spot. Don't get me wrong. Him and Brian Myers as a team is great. I love that old throwback to the Edgeheads, to the Major Bros, to everything they were. But man, Cardona could be doing so much more. But doesn't matter, because this match wasn't about Cardona and Brian. It was about Bullet Club, because man, do Austin and Bay just work as a tag team. These two young guys who were recruited by Jay White to Bullet Club, just it feels like they've kicked it into a new gear as they've partnered together, and their chemistry is great so far. As they continue to grow, I hope they stay as a tag team. But the truth is, both men have huge potential as single stars. And as long as this tag team is going, they're going to add a lot of life and a lot of flavor to the tag team division here in Impact. Bullet Club gets the win with Ace Austin rolling up Cardona for a 1-2-3. And this has to be one of the biggest wins of Ace's career, even though he's already decorated an Impact. But a win over Cardona is very big for the young guy. And I hope to see Bullet Club be able to parlay this into maybe a tag team title shot very soon. After the match, Joe Hendry. I swear, one of these days he's actually going to show up, guys. Impact Digital Media champion Joe Hendry made his way out to the entrance ramp. He talked about the fact that Cardona says he wants a shot at his title, and he presented him with a new video, which makes the Moose video from a few weeks ago look like nothing. The video was called Edge's Bitch, and it was so funny. Cardona and Myers sold it beautifully. This was such a fun video. Guys, if you could find the clip online, please do. Hendry is gold, and him as the digital media champion just makes so much sense. I really cannot wait for the match between Hendry and Cardona, which is inevitable at this point, and I hope this only continues to raise Hendry's stock. Impact really struck gold with this guy. Another backstage segment, this time Eddie Edwards getting ready for the match, and he's with his lovely wife, Alicia. And then finally, our last backstage segment, Moose. But this time, a little flair here, a little bit of extra. The major players interrupt him, and Cardona and Myers tell him that they are going to take care of Hendry, and Moose was right last week. He is a problem. We then get into the last singles match of the night, where Jonathan Gresham defeated soundly Sheldon Jean. I won't lie to you guys. This was another dismantling. Sheldon Jean tried disrespecting Gresham out the beginning, making fun of the height, not respecting the code of honor that Gresham used to live by as Ring of Honor champion. And Gresham, he took it personally. He really did. He took out Sheldon's legs from underneath him and just never let up all the way from bell to bell. This time, though, Gresham wins, not with a submission, but a tricky pin, but instead knocking him out with a shot to the neck. And it was just an aggressive, vicious showing by Jonathan Gresham. I like this side of him. I know Gresham has some detractors after his departure from Ring of Honor, but all these matches have been doing is making me want to see him take on Bryan Danielson or Zack Sabre Jr. I want Gresham to be at the top of whatever company he's a part of, and please, he would be an excellent Impact World Champion sooner than later. I hope Impact knows what they have with him and they take advantage soon. But now, moving on to the main event, we have the first ever Golden Six Shooter Elimination #1 Contenders match. That was a mouthful, guys. It really was. With the winner facing Josh Alexander for the Impact World title at No Surrender. The 6 competitors, I've already mentioned them throughout, were Rhino, Chris Sabin, Callahan, Moose, Eddie Edwards, and Rich Swann. The opening, so I'll go through the eliminations first. Rhino was eliminated first, followed by Eddie Edwards, followed by Chris Sabin, followed by Moose, surprisingly, and then finally the final 2 being Rich Swann and Callahan. Rich Swann pinning Callahan. This was a fun match, a fun elimination style match, which I'm always a fan of. A lot of story was told in this match. Rhino being the first man out makes sense. It's kind of just great that Rhino was in a main event at this point, and not a knock on Rhino. I love Rhino, but he was the veteran there to just remind people he is a world champion. He got speared by Moose, but before Moose could make the cover, Callahan was able to pin him by throwing Moose out of the ring and then stealing the pin himself. We then got to Eddie Edwards' elimination, which again was really fun because this time, again, the threat of PCO looms large, and PCO, his music hits, he comes out to the ring being stopped by security and referees and everything, but that was enough of a distraction for Sabin to hit a tornado. I'm sorry, guys. For him to roll him up for the 1, 2, 3. we then get to a Saban getting speared by Moose, and then the final two being and then, guys, I'm so sorry. I just got a scary text message, but I'll be done very quickly. Swan rolls up Moose, who he's always had his number, going back to when they were both when Rich Swann was Impact World Champion, and Swan hits Callahan with a spinning kick and a cutter, and Moose kicked out Swan's leg and started focusing. No, guys, I'm so sorry. My notes are a little messy right now. Bottom line, Rich Swann is the new #1 contender. And after the match, he tries confronting Callahan about leaving the design. The design don't allow that to happen. They beat down on Rich Swann before Yu Yamura comes out for the save, followed by Josh Alexander and Frankie Kazarian, who even the odds and sent the design flying. We shall see how this progresses, what this means for Callahan's role in the group. And I guarantee you Rich Swann versus Josh Alexander is going to be a great, great main event for No Surrender. But guys, I have to go. My name is James Gisanti. Thank you so much for joining me in the JIMPACT Zone tonight. As always, if you liked what you see, please hit the like button, follow, subscribe, and I'll catch you next Thursday on the JIMPACT Zone. Good night.